Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making some jelly prints and I will print some of the back sides of the jelly prints I already have. I did a handmade journal recently and there is a video available on my channel where I've used jelly prints and I didn't enjoy that many of them were almost white on the back side, so I decided to pick all those out that are white and I will print them. So I have double-sided pattern papers. I think that's kind of a way to save some paper and also perfect when you make some folded mini books from the sheets or you use the papers as pages in a journal. The only thing that is a bit tricky is that if you have two pretty sides, it's hard to decide which one to pick if you make a card or a collage. So I think there are more advantages in having double-sided prints, so I'm printing both sides. I've started here with some, I believe, neon color, and I've used a stamp from our Pencil Mark 6 to create some patterns on the plate. And as a stamp pad for the stamp, I used a smaller jelly plate. I also used the back sides of the existing jelly prints to clean my brayer. That also gives often really nice backgrounds. And I'm also happy to have this on the back sides. I'm adding more texture with the same stamp to the plate by just dipping it around from one color to the other. I've also added here some burnt sienna and I believe it's a Naples yellow reddish. It's quite a light color and I really like to combine this one with the transparent colorful colors on the jelly prints. I'm now going in with some turquoise. I believe it's the green turquoise from Amsterdam. I will try to find out the names of all the paints I'm using here and write them in the video description. Usually the first print I'm doing is kind of difficult. It does not turn out pretty, but as I keep printing, I get more and more nice prints. I can't remember if this first print was pretty or not. It's been a while that I've made these prints. Oh, I think I like that one. That's a really nice one. I'm not sure if the first color I've used was neon. I believe it maybe was the permanent red purple from Amsterdam. That's the pink color you see on the right side on that braided paper. It's one of my favorite reds or pink colors I have. I will flip through all the prints at the end of the video so you can have a look at them again, because sometimes I have to work quite quickly and you can't see the print. So you have the chance to see them all in the end of the video. Here I picked that dot stamp from the same stamp set and I just added a little bit of texture with the turquoisey color onto the plate. I'm adding more texture with the stamp I've used before from the Pencil Mark 6 with burnt sienna. I really like to have these textures on the prints. They are often not perfectly visible, but that's what I really like about jelly printing. I'm not a big fan of prints with a clear pattern. because I find those are hard to use on other artwork or as a background, because they are already so intense, or yeah, they are not a background for me. So I try to have just kind of a I'm not sure how to describe it, not a intense texture, just a pattern that is in the background. It's visible but not dominant. Again, I'm playing a bit with the colors here and there. I often just ink up parts of the jelly plate. I'm also not a big fan of making a big ombre color all over the plate, because that gives kind of boring backgrounds when you cut them smaller. So I decide to have it a bit mixed up. If you want to see more jelly printing videos and also longer videos than this, I have a whole playlist and I will link it up in the video description. Today I picked mainly these colors, the turquoise, that permanent red purple, burnt sienna, and a lighter color, because I really love that color combo. It's one of my favorites, and I have a lot of prints with these colors here, but often I think, oh no, I love this one so much and I don't want to use it. So I decided to make more with these colors. Then I think it might feel easier to use those. That's also a print I really like. I love how the texture comes through and the colors work together. For the next print, I decided to pick a yellow color. It's the, I'm not sure which yellow, might be the Indian yellow from Amsterdam. I'm not sure, but I will write it in the video description. It's quite a transparent and bright yellow. I really like it because it pops up on a background. And I'm doing the same that I've just done before. I pick up some of the paint on the plate and transfer it with the stamp to the areas where I have no paint on so far. I also often stamp that brayer paper with the leftover paint, because that gives also a nice texture and background. In between, I'm cleaning that small helper plate also with that brayer paper. By the way, the paper that I'm using is 120 GSM printer paper. Here I grabbed the yellow green from Amsterdam and I just added to the corners there where I had no paint on them. If you're working with such thin layers of paint, you have to work quickly, or you have to cover up the areas again, like I'm doing it here, that might already have been dried, so you can pick up the paint from your plate. If it's dry and you go on top with paper, you can't pick the paint up, so you have to make sure that the last layer on your plate has wet paint so it can pull the print. And also, if you lay down your paper and you have several layers on your plate, you have to give it a good press to pick everything up. And sometimes I wait a minute, or let's say 30 seconds, before I pull the print, and sometimes I just peek under a corner to make sure it has grabbed all the layers. I've added also my favorite red, added more pattern, and as I had so much paint on the plate, I decided to make just a quick pull, so it will only grab the top layer, and then I come back in and will pull the rest of it. That is called ghost print if you do that, but if you do it, you have to have enough paint on your plate. That's something that you have to try out and experiment a bit with. I find it a bit difficult sometimes, because sometimes with your first print you pull up too much and then there is not much left on the plate for a second print. Or sometimes you pull a first print and then it's not very pretty, but usually then the second print is pretty. It's just something you have to explore, and I feel it's a process that makes a lot of fun. For the next print, I'm using the dot stamp again. It's one of my favorite patterns for a background, and I'm stamping it from that little helper plate to the big plate with burnt sienna. After I've mixed all those bright colors, I'm going in with the other stamp again to create even more texture on the plate. If you're using acrylic paints with your stamps, you have to make sure that the paint does not dry on your stamp, so I lay it onto a wet cloth in between. Again, I try to make 2 prints, and I pulled this one quickly, and there I have not much left over, so I decide to go on top with a light color to make sure I get a full print when I pull that up. Usually the paint, if you have such a thin layer of paint, it dries quite quickly, so you don't have to wait until you go on top with a next layer. If you have some fresh paint on the plate and you want to go on top with another layer, you have to maybe wait a bit until it's a little bit dry, so it doesn't smear when you go on top with another layer of paint. Sometimes I find it quite interesting how different the prints are, although you print the same pattern twice. So if you compare this one to the one before, it's completely different. And just because of the colors I've added on top of the dots, I get this really nice color texture on this print. And that's what I love about gelli printing. You get so many nice surprises and often very pretty backgrounds. Some of you asked for some ideas what to do with the gelli prints. There is also a playlist on my channel which I will link up in the video description, and I'm also sharing quick videos over on my Instagram page where I'm using all those prints. I'm doing the same that I've just done before, just with another color. I'm using the Greenish Turquoise. I believe it looks a bit more blue than it is on camera. Yeah, that's always, the camera picks up the colors a little bit different than they are in original. And that's what I mean while I'm arranging everything on my side, get everything ready. The blue dots have time to dry a bit so I don't smear them when I go on top with another layer of paint. You don't have to wait very long because usually if you stamp something, it has just a thin layer of paint that will dry quite quickly. I don't add another pattern this time. But I want to make 2 prints again, so I quickly lay the first paper on top, and you can see it does not grab many of the patterns underneath, so it might be more interesting to put a pattern on the last layer as well, just to make sure you get an interesting first print. And now I go on top with another layer of paint. I think it's the Naples yellow Redish again. I really like that it's not white because I feel that gives it a more interesting look. And with this print, I make sure to press the paper down quite well and wait a little bit until I lift it to make sure I will pull up everything that I have on the plate. That was my last print for today. I hope you enjoyed this little jelly printing session and maybe you are inspired to get yours out and play a bit. And here I'm flipping through the papers that I've done today. I wish you a wonderful rest of the weekend and I hope we will see us next time. Bye!